Welcome to Babies from Beyond, the podcast that gives all babies a voice, whether they are still in spirit or already earthside. I'm Lauren Dionysius, a former registered NICU nurse turned baby soul communicator, and I'm here to share the wisdom of today's babies to guide you on your motherhood journey. Okay, so I know I say this at the beginning of almost every episode, but this is another really common question that women often ask me, and that is, when does a baby's soul actually attach to their body? And again, as always, I can only speak from my experience here. I haven't connected with every single soul on the planet, so I can't say with absolute confidence that this happens every single time with every single situation. But I am confident enough to say that this is how it's been for me. And so this is how I've come to understand the process. And I will say that it has been consistent for me now over many years. Since around 2016, when I first started doing this work and first started communicating with babies, it's always been the same. It's one thing that really hasn't changed for me. So before we can really answer this question about when a baby's soul attaches to their body, I want to talk a little bit about the journey of the soul to the earth, keeping in mind that every soul journey is different, and also that every incarnation is different. But again, from what I've learned from those souls who are coming, is that every incarnation or every trip to the earth is carefully planned. Life on earth doesn't just happen, right? It's not just an accident, in my experience. It's much more deeply and purposefully orchestrated than what we give it credit for, without it being rigid or robotic at the same time. It seems to fall somewhere in the middle. And a lot also goes on behind the scenes that we can't see when it comes to this orchestration and this planning and the preparation for the journey to Earth. We can't see that. And we're probably not even supposed to see that from where we are here on Earth. Maybe it's too big, too vast, too complex even for our human brains to understand. But what I do understand is, once a soul makes that decision to come to the earth, then the alignment begins. And this is about adjustment to, or acclimation to, the earth's energy. It can be too hard and too fast and too jarring for a soul to come from high up in spirit somewhere to the earth. It can be a bit of a crash landing and quite traumatic for the soul, but also for the physical human body. So that's why there is, in my experience, this period of adjustment. It's like the soul needs to get used to the earth and needs to learn to be here and to feel a connection with the earth's energy. And how long this takes is going to be different for every soul, because it depends on many things, like whether this soul has been to Earth before, and if they have been before, how long it's been since they've been here. Because if it's been quite recent, they may not need a lot of time before they come back to the Earth, or they may not need a long period of adjustment before they come back to Earth. But if they've never been here before, or it's been a really long time since they were here, then they may need some more time to get used to that Earth's energy again. It also depends on the plans that they have around the timing of their conception, what's going on Earth right now, what's going on with you, with your relationship, with other people in your life. It depends on their soul's energy and the difference in that frequency between spirit and the earth plane. Because even though the time that they will last here can have an impact, also every soul's energy feels different. Some are a higher vibration, some are a lower vibration. Well, I don't even really like to say that, because that seems to suggest that some souls are better than others. And it's not really about that. It's just that the frequency of souls are different. Let's put it that way. And it also depends on what they need for their journey as well. Because what they need, they may need to take more time to adjust, or for you to adjust to receiving them is another part of this process. But regardless of what they're looking for, they begin to move closer to the earth. And yes, this is energetically like what we've just been talking about, but sometimes women, especially if you are more sensitive or intuitive, then you may feel them more. You may feel that they seem to be closer, or perhaps you've never felt them and now you're starting to feel something. Sometimes they may have been in one area of your energy field, and as they start to move closer, they may shift to another area of your energy field, perhaps for a different perspective. They can also start coming through in your dreams, especially if they haven't done so before. Or if you have been dreaming about them, these dreams may intensify or become more frequent or more profound or more clear, or you start remembering them when you wake up in the morning. Because these souls, as they begin to move closer, they begin to be more curious about the earth, about this thing called time that they're not used to in spirit, and also more curious about the opportunities for conception for their journey ahead. And so now we've talked a little bit about the journey of the soul as it prepares to incarnate and come to the earth. Let's now talk about the moment of conception. So I'm going to split this into two separate sections, just because there's two very different ways of conception, right? There's the natural conception, but then there's also IVF, or assisted conception in some way. So I'll talk about that in a moment, but I wanted to focus first on natural conception. So this is the moment that the egg and the sperm come together. And in my experience, this is actually when the soul jumps in and then becomes tethered or becomes connected to that embryo. Even in those moments, those initial seconds, because it's at this time that the soul then becomes the life force for the possibilities for this new little embryo. It becomes the fuel that's required for this little embryo to grow. Because in my experience, an embryo cannot grow with just the placenta alone. It needs something bigger than that, something deeper than that, something more vast than that, something that can see the bigger picture that this tiny little embryo is now part of. And that bigger picture consists of the timelines available for that soul. And whether that soul is staying for 6 weeks, 6 years, or 100 years, it needs that life force. It needs that fuel. And that's where the soul comes in. Because the way I see the soul is that it becomes connected to the energy by what looks like to me an energetic cord. At least this is how I see it. It's probably more something symbolic rather than an actual cord. But if we think of the placenta, right, and it's connected to the physical body via an umbilical cord in our 3D earth terms. So the placenta connected to the body, and the placenta is what supplies the physical body with the blood and the nutrients to grow on the physical level. So this is also how I see the soul's role. It's also like the placenta, it becomes the body's fuel. But instead of having an umbilical cord, the soul is attached to the baby's body by an energetic cord that's like a link or a bridge between worlds, between realms, between dimensions, between heaven and earth, spirit and earth, however you want to describe that. And it's what helps to fuel the baby's journey, well beyond the capacity of the blood and nutrients that come from the placenta. And I also feel that this energetic connection between the soul and the body also is what helps to feed the timelines ahead too, regardless of what those timelines are and whether those timelines are short or long. It gives the fuel for those, which is well beyond what the blood and the nutrients can do for the baby's body. So that's just my interpretation of it. That's how I've come to see it, just by communicating, connecting with thousands of babies over the years. So with this cord too, this energetic connection between the soul and the body, it's not fixed, it's not rigid. It's something that's flexible and movable, and it shifts. It ebbs and flows. And the way I see this cord is it's like the string on a kite. If you imagine a kite and you've got the colorful bit in the air, and then it's on a string and you've got the little ball of string wrapped around a handle of some sort. And as you release more of the string, the kite goes further away from you, or it goes higher up in the sky. And then when you want to, you can wind it back in, and the kite comes closer to you and becomes lower in the sky. And when we go back to the soul, as to whether it becomes closer to the baby's body or further away depends on what the body and what the soul need at any given time. And one thing I've learned is that when the soul is closer to the body is usually when the growing baby, for example, is awake or more active, or they're having a growth spurt, or older fetuses when they're awake and they're active and they're kicking. And this is also with babies and children as well, is when their senses are activated through sound or sight or touch. That's often what calls or what pulls the soul closer to them, because they need more of the soul's energy in those moments to do whatever they're doing here on the earth. And when the soul drifts further away or moves further away, that's often during sleep or during rest. And if we use ourselves as an example, when we sleep, our own soul that's there on the end of our own kite string has more distance. It can move further away as we dream, and we can travel. Our soul can travel then through the different realms, different dimensions, through the astral worlds, and we may not even be aware of it unless you're someone who remembers your dreams. But again, this is all just in my experience. The soul is always connected to the body in some way. In healthy people, I will add that. So there are times in life where the soul can become more disconnected, especially if there is mental health pathology involved or significant trauma. But in my experience, it tends to be a transient or a temporary disconnect, or sometimes it can just be a slither of that cord remaining. So it may not be connected in a strong or healthy way, but I find it's always still there, even if that connection is like a tiny thread or a strand of hair between the soul and the body. So I went off track a little bit there, but talking mostly here about natural conception and the soul connecting with the body at that point of conception. So when we compare this now to assisted conception or IVF, to be honest, it's pretty much the same as natural conception. The main difference is that with IVF, the conception process or the environment that conception is taking place in is very different, right? Unless it's an IUI procedure, then this soul attachment or connection usually happens in a petri dish in a lab somewhere. But still, it's the timing that's still the same. It's the soul connecting to that embryo when the egg and the sperm meet. and then the energetic cord, that life force, which always looks to me either silver or white. I don't know why. That just seems to be how it looks to me. That cord is formed, and then the spirit earth connection then is met and created. And from here, anything is possible. Depends on the growth of the body. It depends on, especially with IVF, if the embryos are being frozen, then in my experience, the soul is still connected. I think it just goes and travels further because it's not its physical body, or that embryo is not needing any life force right now, right? I think there's still a thin connection there just to keep the possibilities alive, and the timelines alive. But when an embryo is frozen, then really not needing any life force. It's dormant, it's waiting, it's watching. So the soul can travel and move around a little more freely. But whenever I've connected to those embryos that are still frozen in storage, there's always a soul attached to them. Again, this is just how it comes through to me, and this is what's always been the case with IVF. But again, full disclaimer, I haven't connected with every single IVF potential embryo in a freezer around the world. And so to summarize this episode today, I see the soul's connection to the body as like a kite on a string. It can come closer, it can also move further away, depending on what's needed or not needed with the physical body at the time. But in my experience, the body needs fuel well beyond food, nutrients from the placenta, blood, and then as a baby, milk, all of these things. Anything that fuels the physical body is one thing, but the soul has a deeper purpose around that. It has a more expansive fuel that can help to support the body well beyond the physical. And so this attachment between soul and little human, this connection, it first happens at that moment of conception, like I've already mentioned. And that's the same whether it is natural conception or whether it's IVF. And it continues to come and go during the pregnancy. And then by birth, in my experience, the soul tends to spend more time closer to the body than further away. I know there is a lot of talk out there that the soul is fully integrated by 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, whatever it may be. But in my experience, again, and also connecting with the souls of adults as well, I don't think any of our souls are fully integrated into our human body. I think we have times where it can be, and there's definitely times where it's more integrated than at other times. But I think as just by way of being a human on the earth, and that our soul is such a vast, infinite energy that has expanded well beyond the capacity of our human body. To me, I find it's almost the other way around. It's more about our body integrating into our soul's energy rather than our soul integrating into our body, because it's too big. Like our soul can't fit in our human body. Our body just not big enough. Whereas to me, it makes more sense that our body integrates into the energy of the soul. And this especially happens as we embark on and continue on our spiritual path or our growth or healing journey here on earth, depending on what our soul has come here to learn and move through. So I did go a little off track in this episode, as I tend to do, because it is difficult when you're talking about these topics that are multidimensional and expand well beyond our 3D human world. It's not linear, it's not straightforward, and there's often many factors involved. But anyway, I hope that this episode has offered you some insights about the soul's journey to the earth, and also about when and how it attaches to your baby's body. Thank you for tuning in to Babies from Beyond. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to leave me a review just wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, head over to Instagram and give me a follow at Born Energy, and check out the show notes for more ways that you can connect with your baby's soul, including one-on-one readings and online programs to support you. Until next time, trust your journey and your baby. Take care.